Welcome to Cinema Story Plus. Hey everyone. Today we're looking at a beautiful and emotional movie called Man on the Road, 2022. This story follows Irene, a young girl still hurting and feeling guilty about her father's death, which happened when she was a child. As she grows up, she becomes determined to find the person who killed him. One day, she finally meets the man responsible, but she didn't recognize him, and it completely changes both of their lives. If you're curious about what will happen, stay with us until the end. I'm going to explain the whole movie in a simple and entertaining way, so you don't need to spend hours watching it. If you enjoy quick and easy movie recaps with all the important details, you're in the right place. So make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get more interesting videos like this. The movie begins with a little girl named Irene, playing hide-and-seek in the woods with her dad. Afterward, he teaches her how to pick mushrooms, and she puts one in her basket. Irene stays behind to use the bathroom while her dad walks toward the main road. When she goes to look for him, she can't find him anywhere, so she calls out him loudly. But suddenly, she hears a loud noise coming from the road. She slowly walks toward it and sees a car. The driver gives her a creepy stare and then speeds away. Scared, Irene notices mushrooms scattered all over the road. She looks farther ahead and sees her father's dead body fall to the ground. The shock hits her hard, and she screams loudly. The story then jumps 10 years later. Irene is now a teenager preparing for a big swimming competition. Her coach motivates her and tells her to save her breath for the last 30 meters. The race starts and Irene tries her best, but another girl wins. The girl tells Irene she lost by just a few seconds, but Irene gets angry and punches her. Later, the coach tells Irene to apologize or she'll be disqualified, but Irene refuses and gets aggressive with him too. Upset, he calls her a useless loser. Then she left with full of angry. At the way home, her mom tells her to take a break and even suggests seeing a doctor, but Irene ignores her. One day, Irene's little sister Pam asks why she isn't going to school or competitions. Irene snaps at her and kicks her out, so her stepdad questions her behavior. Irene snaps back, saying Pam is only her half-sister and, "You are not my dad." Her mom steps in and tells Irene to either study or get a job. Irene gets angry and accuses her mom of forgetting her real dad. Her mom ends up slapping her. Irene leaves and goes to her aunt's house. On the bus, she sees a strange man and starts sketching him in her notebook, wondering if he might be her father's killer, but she soon realizes he is not. At her aunt's house, she is warmly welcomed and allowed to stay until she finds a job. Her aunt also invites Irene to join her yoga classes. At yoga, Irene meets Milana, a middle-aged woman with neck pain. They talk, and Milana says she works as a foreman at a factory. Irene asks if she can help her get a job there, and Milana agrees. Milana takes Irene to the factory, shows her around, and explains how things work there. She also says she'll place her in a simple department. Just then, the factory owner, Michelle, arrives. Milana introduces Irene to him and tells him she is the new employee they just hired. Then he hears Irene's full name, Irene Treviglian, suddenly looks shocked and walks away quickly. Michelle can't handle his emotions and guilt, so he thinks about his wild younger days, getting high, taking dares like jumping off buildings, and living without any sense of responsibility. He acted like a playboy and had a romantic fling with a girl named Laura, spending time together in a carefree way. Back in the present, his wife Laura asks why he's stressed. Michelle lies and says their German client wants them for dinner. Later, Michelle decides to fire Irene, but Milana convinces him to let her finish her trial period. At work, a guy named Loris flirts with Irene. He starts talking to her and tries to give her his number, but she refuses. From a distance, a jealous coworker named Agata watches them. Meanwhile, Michael and Laura attend dinner with the client, but Michelle is rude and distracted. In the next scene, he reads about Irene's swimming competitions and her past violent outburst. Then he looks out the window and sees Irene sitting on the ground alone with her notebook. We can see that he is thinking a lot about her. Irene goes swimming alone to clear her mind. The coach notices how talented she is. While leaving the pool, she sees Michel watching her from his car. She nervously waves at him, but he doesn't respond and leaves with his driver. Irene starts secretly hanging out with Loris. They meet outside of work, play games, and have fun together. At work, they avoid each other in public, but Agata notices something between them and becomes very jealous. Later, Irene finds her bike tire slashed by Agata, but she decides to ignore it. Later, Loris texts Irene asking her to meet him, and heads to find her supervisor to request leave. But Irene unexpectedly runs into Michel, who asks what's wrong. So she lies about being sick and takes a day off. Michaela realizes she is lying. He sees Loris's truck outside and realizes Irene is lying. At first, he refuses to give her leave, but when Irene gets upset, he finally gives in and lets her go. At that moment, Laura sees Irene coming out of Michel's office and becomes curious because she has never seen Irene at the factory before. She asks Michel about her, but he brushes it off and pretends Irene isn't important. The scene shifts to Loris and Irene. They have a little fun in the trunk, and Irene leaves a mark on Loris's neck. Loris gets upset about it and becomes a bit angry with her. Irene is confused and doesn't understand why he's mad over something so small. Then, we see Michel and Laura going hiking together. Later, at home, they share their feelings and spend romantic time together. The next day, a pregnant woman confronts Irene for sleeping with her husband, Loris. Irene ignores her and angrily walks inside, upset that Loris cheated. Agata loudly blames Irene, so Irene argues back, and they start fighting. Things get physical until Michel steps in, stops the fight, and pulls Irene away. He tells her to calm down and control her emotions, then walks away angrily. Irene thinks she's fired, but Milana tells her that Michel kept her and moved Agata instead, surprising Irene. That evening, Michel follows Irene in his car, but she disappears. Suddenly, she jumps into his car and accuses him of stalking her. She even starts undressing, thinking he expects something in return. But Michel tells her he just wants to make sure she's safe. They go eat, and Irene asks Michael why he has a driver and doesn't drive himself. Michael doesn't explain and only says he doesn't like driving. Then he asks Irene why she stopped swimming, but she stays quiet. Michael admits that he ended up working in his father's factory because he didn't know what else to do with his life. And they talk things happily. The next day, Michael approaches Irene again, claiming he wants to show her something. Then he takes her to an old house by the sea and tells her he wants to turn it into a restaurant. Irene draws a man she saw earlier, saying she's trying to remember the face of the man who killed her father. She thinks he must have moved on with his life, gotten married, and had children. But Michel suggests maybe that man's life isn't perfect, maybe he's suffering. Days later, Irene tries to hang out with Michel again, but he rejects her and says he's busy and drives away, leaving Irene feeling hurt and rejected. But the next day, he shows up at her pool to apologize and gives her a small gift. They spend the day having fun together, and Irene sees him laugh for the first time. The next morning, Irene decides to join the swim team again. Michel is proud. Laura sees him happy and gets suspicious. She looks through his files, sees Irene's name, and is shocked. When Michael comes home, Laura lies and says she's pregnant. When she sees his lack of happiness, she admits it was a test. She then yells at him for getting close to Irene, the daughter of the man he killed. Michel says Irene's life is falling apart and he just wants to help, but Laura insists he's in love with her and gives him an ultimatum. Days later, Irene competes again and wins. She searches for Michel in the crowd but sees only his driver, who signals that Michel is waiting outside. They meet and silently admit they love each other. That evening, they celebrate with drinks. After a while, the driver leaves, and Irene asks Michel to take her home. In the car, she starts flirting with him. Michael tries to control his feelings in front of her because he still feels guilty about ruining her life. But he can't hold his feelings for long and almost gives in. At the last second, he suddenly stops himself, opens the door, and runs out of the car, completely overwhelmed. A flashback reveals the truth. 10 years ago, Michel, drunk and driving recklessly despite Laura begging him to slow down, hit Irene's father. Little Irene appeared moments later, and Michael looked at her with guilt before speeding away. In the present, Michael drives Irene to the same spot where her father died. Irene realizes the truth. Michel says he's thought about her every day. Irene knocks him to the ground and picks up a rock, ready to kill him. Michel doesn't fight back, he thinks he deserves it. But Irene drops the idea and instead smashes his car window before walking away. In the next scene, Irene finds her mother at the hospital and breaks down, apologizing for everything. Her mom tells her Michel turned himself in. 5 years later, Irene is doing well and works as a swimming coach. She has a great relationship with her stepsister Pam. While walking together, Irene spots a new restaurant, with the same name she once jokingly suggested to Michel. In the final scene, Irene walks inside and sees Michel renovating. He turns around, shocked and emotional. She gives him a gentle smile, hinting that she has forgiven him, and that maybe they can have a future after all. What do you think about today's movie recap? In my opinion, it's a very beautiful story filled with true love, responsibility, obsession, trauma, and a complicated relationship. In the end, we see that true lovers can't stop their feelings for each other, even after they learn the truth. So if you have that kind of love in your life, protect it until the very end. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell to get more interesting movie recaps like this. Take care, and goodbye until we meet again.